guys, we're here today, another video. Interesting topic that I want to discuss, and it's why your fish are always dying or may always be dying when adding them to the tank or having them after a week or two. So let's talk about some of those reasons of why your fish might just be dying very quickly and you don't know why, you don't understand why, what may have caused the death. I think one of the main reasons for a lot of people is having a new tank that's not cycled correctly. And you're probably wondering, what is cycle? What are you talking about? So cycling a fish tank, many say it has to sit for about 4 weeks to 6 weeks. Your tank sitting there with nothing in it but your decorations, the water, and the filter running for about 4 weeks to 6 weeks to give the tank time for beneficial bacteria to grow within inside of the tank. But to be honest, that's just not enough. It's not enough to start your cycle. So 4 to 6 weeks, it's the minimum. Now, I tested this out. I had a tank, many of them, cycling at the very exact same time, with nothing in it. Now, with the tank sitting there for about 6 weeks, well, 4 weeks, I got the tank to a 6.4 pH level with zero ammonia and zero nitrates and zero nitrites. Which that part is the bad part, because you actually want some of that. You actually want some ammonia in your tank in the beginning, because it has to feed that beneficial bacteria. So that's a cause of fish dying, a new tank not being properly cycled. There's chemicals you can use, like Prime, to start your cycle. Some of this stuff here, a booster to start your cycle. So there's chemicals, there's things that you can do. So I tested it out with many tanks starting a cycle. There's also the cycle with adding fish. I don't recommend this because it's very harmful to the fish. What people do is they get some feeder fish like guppies or goldfish or whatnot, and yes, that will get your cycle started. A lot of times they'll do it quicker and even better than a fishless cycle, but your fish has to endure that pain of high ammonia strikes and all that type of stuff. That's number one. Number two, let's say you already have fish. Doing large water changes very quickly, and the water not being the same temperature when you're adding it back in, so your fish get shocked and they die from shock of the water being too quickly put in and too quickly removed from the tank. Maybe your tank doesn't have the beneficial bacteria built up enough to sustain such a big water change. Here goes another one. Ammonia. That's a real big killer. A lot of people don't test their fish tanks, and you look here, this is the safe zone for ammonia for your fish. When you get into these darker levels here and you hit an 8.8, the chances of your fish dying is very high. Now the only way you can get to even near these two without your fish dying is if you have a lot of beneficial bacteria in your tank eating at that ammonia level quickly. So ammonia is a killer. What about buying fish and putting fish into your tank? A lot of time that is killing our fish because we're not doing that properly. We're just buying fish from Petco or PetSmart or our local fish store, and we're putting our fish directly into the tank, and the fish are dying in a couple hours, a couple days, a week or two. They haven't adjusted to your pH, your ammonia levels, the other fish, the water temperature. They went into shock and boom, they're dead. You're watching them hang out on the top of the tank or in the low corners. So that's a killer. How can you prevent that? Well, you have to actually temp your fish to the temperature of your water and drip acclimate the fish to your tank. And I know that's a lot of work. You just want to buy it and rush it into the tank so that you can see your cool fish swimming about doing what they're doing. So what do I mean? So when you buy some fish and they come in that bag, you're actually supposed to take the bag, lift your top up, sit the bag in there, and let it sit roughly for 15 to 30 minutes depending on the size of the fish or how many are in the bag. Then once it's set there for about 20-30 minutes, you get a bucket. You take the fish, you cut a little hole in it, the bag. You spill the water with the fish into the bucket. Then you get yourself a nice little tubing like the one you will use for your air bubbler. Put it in the tank, put the other end inside of the bucket, and have some of the water siphon out from here into the bucket, dripping into the bucket, so that the fish get used to not even the sorry about that. Get used to the temperature of the water even more, along with getting used to the perimeters of your water inside of your tank, meaning pH, ammonia, nitrate, nitrites, KHs, and all that other good stuff, beneficial stuff for your fish. Once you've got that going for about an hour, you take a net and another bucket, put the net over the other bucket, the bucket with the fish in it. You take that one and you spill it into the net because you don't want any of the water that was from the store getting into your tank as much of it as possible. You don't know if there's very high ammonia levels that was inside of that water from the fish being in there for a long time period, or parasites and other diseases. That's another thing. Parasites and diseases kill our fish all the time. Don't mind this guy right here. That's Zombie. He got his name because he plays dead a lot. I don't know if he's dead alive half the time. I would have to like tap on the glass or stick my hand in there or put food to see if he moves. Which we're gonna feed right now. This is a frozen bloodworm. They love this stuff. So parasites, things like ick, funguses can come with your new fish that you might not see inside the store. So quarantining your fish. Quarantining is having a smaller tank, like a 10-gallon, depending how big the fish is. Having a 10-gallon tank with a sponge filter that's been cycled already. It's been sitting there. You put the fish in, you watch them for about 4 weeks to 6 weeks to see how they behave, how they act. Meaning to see if white spots pop up. That's it. Seeing if they have hole in the head. Fin rot, where your fins have white stuff on it and it looks like it's deteriorating. Diseases, parasites, maybe a little worm hanging out the side of their gill or something like that. Then you're able to treat those things with medicine. Getting rid of parasites and worms and things like that. And once you see that they're okay, then adding them into the tank. There was another killer. Not doing water changes. Just leaving that water sit there for months. That could kill your fish. A lot of waste buildup. maybe not having a heater in your tank. Maybe some fish need higher temperature water, and your house is cold. It's the winter time right now. Then there's things like toxic algae and stuff like that. Bullying your fish to the point where they're stressed out and they pass. Now, she was put out of the tank for a while on punishment, and the aggression definitely did stop for a while. When she got reintroduced, he actually became the aggressor for a little bit, and now she's back to being the aggressor. So I'll pull her out again, put her on timeout, and then reintroduce her to the tank and let everything start over. I'm letting him stay in this tank. I was going to rehome him to one of my other community tanks, but he's actually passing. Speaking of death, gouramis live for about 5 years, 6 years, some 7. I had him for about 5.5 years now. Raised them up from his parents. I had 2 other gouramis. Both of them were pearls. And they made him. And how I know he's passing is his behavior. He's starting to swim a lot slower. He has these bumps on the back here. He actually has like a little hole, not really deep, but on the side of his head right there, if you can see it. So the older the fish get, they start to go, you can see the age. It's like having a grandparent. You can kind of see time playing out with them. So he's definitely started swimming a lot slower. He's been hanging out in this area more where he's always up top. So his time is coming there. I'm going to let him retire in this tank and pass in this tank like his parents did about 10 years ago. It's part of the hobby. She's about 3 years old. Had her about that size. Just got her from a pet store. I didn't breed her like him. How you tell the sex of a gourami? It's only one way to tell, and it's actually the top fin. The pointier the fin means it's a male. The rounder the fin means it's a female. Now that's normal behavior to see them chase each other and things like that. Gouramis are an aggressive fish, semi-aggressive. Some are a lot more calmer, but this is normal behavior. This is what you're going to see them do inside of a fish tank. Now the problem, I could stop it with adding more plants or more hiding spots, but this guy here, he doesn't care for plants. He pulls them all out like that. They get ruined and they don't help with covering the tank. Before I put them in here, this tank was heavily planted. This was actually over here, and there were just plants all over this. And then I introduced him, and he got about 5 inches, and he decided he wants to pull out plants. That's about it. That's all I have on some of the reasons of why your fish may be passing. So maybe trying those things out. But other than that, good news is the snails are actually getting big really quick. They ate a whole algae wafer on their own. I have some dead plants in there. There goes Mama. She has done very excellent. Her back has healed up. Let's see if we can see it right there where it cracked at, broke open. Her shell is like growing back a lot quicker than what I expected. I set an entire anti acid in there tablet. You're probably thinking, what the hell? Why would you put that in there? Snails need calcium. 750 milligrams, which is calcium in here. And this drug, I actually make a snail food out of this stuff. I didn't have time or the stuff to make, so I just drop one of those in there and it plays out. It's actually the water change for this tank today. They got all theirs about a day or two. So after this video, we'll be siphoning the bottom, getting some good water in there. I actually introduced a filter to this tank. I had one out of it for a long time. It started without a filter. pumping some what are these called again? U-media. That's what that is. With a sponge in the bottom. And this tank didn't have problems with ammonia or pH or anything like that. I just wanted more beneficial bacteria in here. So when I do the rescape and pulling the bait out and all that, it's already go. Over here, they're hatching. The second batch, they're hatching over here. And the third batch, you already see one peeking out. So they're kind of hatching almost at the exact same time. I realized that you don't really need the rocks and the seashells to be on top of each other, and you don't really need a lot of water. You just need the seashell, a small container, and just a little bit of water to build up humidity with a lid and a hole. So these beta things work excellent. Stick tuned. Go show my other videos some love. Subscribe. Thank you.